Upon learning Ryan had a car accident from street racing and was bleeding heavily, Wanda rushed to the hospital and donated a full 1,000 cubic centimeters of blood for him. His brothers urged her to go back and rest, and she reluctantly agreed. But just as she reached the door, she turned back out of worry, only to see the nurse dumping all 5 bags of blood drawn from her straight into the trash. Immediately after, a burst of laughter loud enough to lift the roof erupted from a nearby ward. Ha ha ha. Wanda, that fool fell for our trick again. Wanda stared blankly through the half-open hospital door, her gaze instantly locking onto the man in a patient gown standing among the crowd. Ryan lounged lazily against the headboard, head bowed as he played with his phone. Though partially obscured by others, his high-bridged nose and deep-set brow were still faintly visible, not a trace of serious injury to be seen. Wanda blinked, wondering if grief had conjured this hallucination. Brothers. Let me count. How many times have we gotten our revenge now? The first time, we lied to her that Ryan's necklace meant for her was lost. She ended up searching in the heavy snow all night, running a fever of 40 degrees but stubbornly refusing to rest. The second time, we tricked her into thinking Ryan was unconscious. She knelt and climbed 999 steps overnight to pray for a protective charm, only for Ryan to throw it to a dog. The third time, we framed her for cheating and ruined her graduation. The way she desperately tried to prove her innocence, I still laugh thinking about it. This time we tricked her into donating 5 bags of blood, making it the 96th time. Right, just 3 more deceptions, and our revenge game can finally conclude. It hasn't been easy. Ryan has endured so much over these years. What else could we do? She was the one who didn't know her place. Stealing Vanessa's dance championship and making Vanessa cry all night. Vanessa is Ryan's first love. How could he let it slide after someone made her cry? That's why he decided to date her, to exact revenge 99 times. What a pity though. Once the revenge is over, Ryan will dump her, and we'll have no more fun to look forward to. Wanda's ears buzzed as if a thunderbolt had exploded right above her head. Her heart felt as if it were being sliced by a knife. Clutching her chest tightly, she bent over, gasping for air, the pain nearly suffocating her. She couldn't believe the words she had just heard. Nor could she accept that Ryan had only dated her for revenge. He clearly knew how much she liked him. Ryan, the sought-after young master with excellent academics, family background, and looks. There was a saying back then that no girl who met him could resist liking him. She was just one among thousands of those girls. She abandoned her dignity to pursue him for 3 years, yet he remained unmoved, until one day, he surprisingly agreed to her confession. She thought she had finally gotten her wish. But little did she know, it was all just a cruel act of revenge. It turned out, the reason he hadn't agreed before was because his heart already belonged to someone else. It turned out, the reason he later agreed was because she had stolen Vanessa's championship, making Vanessa cry, out of revenge. He pretended to be with her, pushing her into the abyss with 99 lies. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Wanda's tears kept falling uncontrollably. Her throat felt as if something was stuck, making even breathing difficult. She looked at the group of people laughing recklessly in the hospital room, at Ryan's cold face, and suddenly felt like a joke. She offered her sincere heart to him, only for him to mercilessly crush it and throw it into the trash, cheaper than an expired pig's heart. At that moment, the people in the hospital room seemed to sense something and looked toward the door. Wanda hurriedly turned around and walked away quickly. She walked faster and faster, until she was almost running. She didn't know where she was going, only that she wanted to escape this place completely, escape Ryan, escape this absurd nightmare. She squatted down when she could no longer run. Tears gushing out like a breached flood, she covered her face, letting out muffled sobs from her throat, as if trying to cry out all her grievances in pain. How ridiculous, Wanda, you're a complete fool. After what felt like an eternity, the phone in her arms rang. Her hands trembling, she answered the call. Wanda's mom's gentle voice came through from the other end. Wanda, your father and I are about to move abroad to settle down. Are you really sure you don't want to come with us? Not long ago, Wanda's mom's overseas work transfer was approved. They had planned to relocate the entire family abroad, but she couldn't bear to leave Ryan behind. She kept postponing the decision, even considering staying permanently in Beijing for him. But now, she only felt bitter irony. No, she wiped away all her tears, took a deep breath, and spoke in a hoarse yet resolute voice, "Dad, Mom, I'll go with you, immediately." Wanda's mom responded with delight, "That's wonderful. Wanda, we'll go handle the paperwork then. Once it's done, there's no turning back." She gripped her phone tightly, her fingertips trembling slightly, but still replied firmly, "I won't regret it." Wanda's mom was about to hang up but then thought of something and tentatively asked, "By the way, what about that boyfriend of yours? Didn't you pursue him for a long time and like him a lot?" The words boyfriend pierced her heart like a sharp thorn. Wanda's mind flashed with the jarring laughter from the hospital room. Ryan lounging lazily on the hospital bed playing with his phone, the group's unrestrained mockery, recalling how he had cruelly spent 3 years avenging her for Vanessa's sake. Her heart suddenly clenched, as if gripped by an invisible hand, the pain so intense she could barely breathe. "I don't like him anymore," she heard her own voice, hoarse yet calm. "I'll never like him again." After hanging up the phone, Wanda stood by the roadside, letting the cold wind tousle her hair. She looked up at the overcast sky, took a deep breath, and turned to walk in the direction of home. The moment she pushed the door open, a familiar scent rushed over her. Wanda stood at the doorway, gazing at the familiar arrangement in the living room, her heart filled with a daze. This was Ryan's house, the key he had given her after accepting her confession that day. Leaning against the doorframe, he casually said, "Let's move in together." Back then, she was shy yet overjoyed, thinking it was the beginning of their love story. She had even secretly fantasized that one day in the future, they would get married, have children, and spend a long life together in this place. But now, she only finds it bitterly ironic. Living together, it's just to make it easier to take revenge on her. She had no idea how much he liked Vanessa, that he was willing to waste 3 years on her, live with her, and even sleep with her so many times, all just to make her believe he was in love with her. For the next 3 days, Wanda did not visit Ryan at the hospital even once. She locked herself at home and began sorting through everything related to Ryan. She pulled out the diary she had kept while secretly admiring him. A thick volume with every page filled with her innermost thoughts. "Today I saw him again at the library. He was wearing a white shirt, so handsome. He spoke to me today, even if it was just politely asking me to pass something, but it still made me happy all day. He agreed to be with me. Am I dreaming?" Wanda turned the pages one by one, tears silently falling. She threw the diary into the trash bag, as if slowly stripping away the love she once had for him. Then, there were the gifts she had given him, a necklace, a watch, a coat. Each item carried the joy and anticipation she once felt. Finally, there were all the photos she had secretly taken of him. In the photos, Ryan was either giving a speech, playing basketball, or leaning against the hallway chatting with someone. Each one made her heart flutter. She threw all these things into the trash can, as if bidding farewell to her past self. On the evening of the 3rd day, Wanda finally finished organizing the last item, standing in the center of the living room. She looked at the empty house and felt an unexpected sense of relief in her heart. At that very moment, Ryan pushed the door open and walked in. His gaze swept over the noticeably emptier house, his brow slightly furrowed. "What's missing?" Wanda looked up, her expression calm. "Nothing, just some unnecessary things." Ryan took a few steps closer, a hint of displeasure in his tone. "I was badly injured. Why didn't you come to see me?" Wanda twitched the corner of her lips, her voice cool. "Haven't you already been discharged? If you were that badly hurt, how could you return so quickly?" Ryan was taken aback for a moment before explaining. "I heard you donated a lot of blood for me, so I came back to check on you out of concern." After speaking, his gaze fell on her arm, and his tone was uncharacteristically gentle. "Does it hurt?" Wanda withdrew her hand and replied indifferently, "It doesn't hurt." Ryan noticed her coldness and frowned tightly. "What happened recently? How did you change just because I was hospitalized?" Wanda twitched the corner of her lips, revealing a faint smile. "What's changed?" Ryan remained silent, but both understood perfectly well. The former Wanda used to gaze at him with eyes full of affection. Even if he caught a cold, she would treat it as a major crisis, wishing she could stay by his side every moment. But now, after 3 days of his hospitalization, she hadn't even made a single phone call. Ryan gazed at her face for a moment, as if trying to discern something from her expression. He suddenly spoke, his voice low and gentle. "Have you been a bit tired lately? They threw me a welcome banquet. Let me take you with me, all right?" Wanda didn't even have time to refuse before Ryan took her hand and led her into the car. The car stopped in front of an upscale club, Ryan got out and walked around to her side, opening the car door for her. Wanda glanced at him but remained silent, quietly stepping out of the car. The moment she entered the club, Wanda's gaze was instantly drawn to a familiar figure, Vanessa. She was wearing a white dress, her long hair cascading over her shoulders, with a gentle smile as she stood at the center of the crowd, chatting and laughing with a few friends. Vanessa is Ryan's childhood sweetheart. Although they grew up together, in all these years, they've never had any interaction, so she never imagined that Ryan actually had feelings for Vanessa. And when Vanessa saw them walking over hand in hand, her half-smiling eyes seemed to indicate that she was also aware of those 99 acts of revenge. Wanda suddenly found it hard to breathe. Ryan seemed to have noticed Vanessa's presence as well. His fingers stiffened slightly before he released Wanda's hand. He turned to Wanda and whispered, "I'm going out to make a call. You go ahead and enjoy yourself. I'll be back soon." Wanda stood still, watching Ryan's retreating figure, her heart turning cold. Before she could say anything, Vanessa had already glided gracefully after Ryan. The two figures disappeared one after the other around the corner of the club. Wanda had no time to wonder what they were doing outside, as she was soon surrounded by Ryan's brothers, sister-in-law. "Come have a drink." They grinned as they handed her a glass. Wanda shook her head. "I can't drink." "Don't be a spoilsport, just one drink, it won't hurt," without giving her a chance to refuse. They shoved the glass into her hand and pushed her forward. Wanda struggled to break free and tried to leave, but one of them gave her a sudden shove. "Ah!" Wanda let out a cry as she lost her balance completely and fell straight into the nearby pool. The icy water instantly engulfed her body. She couldn't swim, flailing her limbs in panic, only to sink deeper. Water rushed into her mouth and nose, choking her until she nearly suffocated. Her consciousness gradually faded, darkness enveloping her vision before she completely lost awareness. When she woke again, Wanda found herself lying in a familiar room. Her head was heavy and dizzy, her entire body burning as if on fire. She struggled to open her eyes and saw Ryan sitting by the bed, holding a glass of water and a few pills. "You have a fever, take the medicine." Ryan's voice was low, carrying a hint of concern. Wanda dazedly took the pills and swallowed them with water. She had no time to think, only feeling her throat unbearably dry, as if all her strength had been drained. She closed her eyes, trying to go back to sleep, but her body grew increasingly hot, as if something was burning inside her. She didn't know how much time had passed when she finally managed to open her eyes, only to find Ryan was no longer in the room. She forced herself to sit up and touched her forehead. It was frighteningly hot. She knew she couldn't delay any longer. She had to go to the hospital. Wanda dragged her heavy body and struggled to make it to the hospital. The doctor administered an 4 drip, and only then did her fever slightly subside. After examining her condition, the doctor frowned and said, "Fortunately, you came early. Any later, and it might have developed into pneumonia." Wanda leaned weakly against the hospital bed, her voice hoarse. "Doctor, I took the medicine as prescribed, so why did I get worse?" The doctor paused for a moment and asked, "What medicine did you take?" Wanda pulled a small medicine bottle from her pocket and handed it to the doctor. "Just some anti-inflammatory drugs. My boyfriend gave them to me." The doctor took the bottle, opened it, and glanced inside. His expression immediately turned serious. "These aren't anti-inflammatory drugs at all. The bottle is labeled as such, but it's filled with sugar pills, completely ineffective and could actually delay proper treatment." Wanda felt her heart sink suddenly, her fingertips trembling slightly. Suddenly, her phone vibrated violently a few times. She barely managed to lift her hand and glanced at the phone, where messages were popping up one after another on the screen. It was Ryan's gang of brothers sending them. "Ha ha ha. The 97th revenge mission accomplished. Who came up with this idea? It's pure genius. First, we accidentally push her into the water, then Ryan switches the medicine. She must be suffering terribly by now. Then, someone panicked and sent a message. Holy shit, you sent it to the wrong group. Wanda is in this group too." Soon, those messages were quickly retracted, as if nothing had ever happened. Wanda held her phone with trembling hands, her heart chilled to the core, as if soaked in icy water, making even breathing difficult. So, even her falling into the water, the fever, and the medication were all part of their carefully planned revenge. It turned out that Ryan's so-called medicine was only meant to make her suffer more. Before long, Ryan's phone call came through. "Where have you been? Why aren't you at home?" Ryan's voice was low, carrying a hint of barely noticeable urgency. Wanda took a deep breath, trying to keep her voice calm. I have a high fever and came to the hospital. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line before Ryan replied. I'll be right there. No need, she interrupted. After the 4-in-1 night in the hospital, I can go home. You've been busy lately, so just focus on your work. Ryan was silent for a few seconds before suddenly asking, have you checked your phone? He called because he was afraid she might see those messages. She lied. No. The doctor said I was burning up and might die soon. No time to check my phone. Silence fell on the other end of the line again, Ryan's voice carrying an indescribable emotion. With me here, you'll be fine. Wanda tightened her grip on the phone, her heart filled with sorrow. With him around. But wasn't he the one who brought all this suffering? Wanda was discharged from the hospital, but just as she stepped out to hail a cab, a group of people suddenly rushed up from behind and, without a word, covered her mouth and nose from the back. Before she could even struggle, she lost consciousness. When she woke up again, Wanda found herself lying in a dimly lit hotel room, her hands and feet tied, surrounded by a group of thugs with disgusting grins on their faces. Awake, don't be scared, we'll take good care of you, one of the thugs said as he reached to tear at her clothes. Who are you? Let go, let me go. Wanda struggled fiercely, but she was already weak and no match for them. She threw things, kicked them, and screamed at the top of her lungs, but there was no reaction whatsoever. As she watched these people about to strip her completely naked, her heart filled with despair, and tears streamed uncontrollably down her face. Just then, the door was suddenly kicked open with a loud bang. Get the hell out of here. Ryan's voice sounded as if it came from the depths of hell, carrying overwhelming fury. The thugs were intimidated by his imposing presence and scrambled out in a panic. Wanda huddled on the bed, trembling all over. She looked up at Ryan, seeing urgency and panic in his eyes for the first time. Wanda, he quickly walked to her side, reaching out with trembling hands to embrace her, but Wanda startled like a frightened rabbit, shrinking back abruptly, her eyes filled with fear. Ryan's hand froze mid-air, a flash of pain flickering in his eyes. Wanda wanted to say something more, but darkness engulfed her vision as she fainted once again. After what felt like an eternity, Wanda woke up groggily. She heard someone speaking in the hospital room, their voices hushed but still carrying a clear tone of anger. Why wasn't I told about this revenge plan? It was Ryan's voice. Didn't you want to finish these 99 acts of revenge quickly so you could be with Vanessa? We thought you were too busy, so we didn't bother you and just handled it for you. A brother's voice chimed in, sounding somewhat indifferent. I didn't ask you to have someone assault her. Ryan's voice suddenly rose, the anger in his tone almost overflowing. The group was startled, disbelievingly saying, what? So what if we went too far? Didn't we decide from the start to retaliate against her harshly? Why are you so angry? Ryan remained silent, only violently kicking over the coffee table. Why was he so angry? He didn't even know why he was so angry. All these years, Wanda had been chasing after him, always like a bright little sun pursuing him. On the day he agreed to be with her, she stood there stunned in disbelief, and then wept with joy. That expression of hers, he still remembered it clearly to this day. He had never seen her like this before, lying there, like a withered rose, utterly lifeless. He didn't know why, but he panicked. He didn't want to see her like that. When she looked at him with those weak eyes, his heart still ached faintly, seeing him remain silent for so long. Everyone began to sense something was amiss. Unable to hold back his fear, he said, Ryan, something's not right with you. Don't tell me that over these years, you've gone from pretending to actually falling for her. The ward was deathly silent, as if even the air had frozen. Ryan, who had been raging at the culprit, instantly stiffened in place, his mind echoing that sentence over and over. Don't tell me that over these years, you've actually fallen for her for real, like Wanda. Impossible. He swiftly dismissed the idea, he swiftly dismissed the thought, as if doing so could completely erase that inexplicable emotion lurking in his heart. The one he had always liked was Vanessa. Wanda, what was she? Just a tool he had approached for revenge. But if he had no feelings for her at all, why had he been so furious upon seeing those thugs pinning her down? Even back when Vanessa was being hit on by other men, he had never been this impulsive. His words plunged the room into silence once more. The brothers exchanged glances, seemingly relieved. One of them patted Ryan on the shoulder and said lightly, you should have said so earlier. You scared us to death. We really thought you'd fallen for her. Playing a revenge game and getting yourself trapped wouldn't be worth it. Vanessa would be devastated if she found out. Ryan didn't respond, only suppressing the inexplicable emotion in his heart as he coldly said, "I will never like Wanda in my entire life." The brothers finally relaxed and said with a smile, all right, she's about to wake up anyway, so we'll take our leave first." After everyone had left, Ryan slowly walked to the bedside and looked down at the unconscious Wanda. Her face was pale, her brows slightly furrowed, as if she was not sleeping peacefully. His fingers unconsciously brushed against her cheek, but he jerked them back the moment they made contact. As if burned, he turned and walked to the window, lit a cigarette, and took a deep drag, trying to numb his chaotic thoughts with nicotine. Wanda, when she woke up, only Ryan was left in the hospital room. He sat by the bed, holding a glass of water, and asked softly when he saw her awake, "How do you feel? Still unwell?" Wanda did not answer, only turning her head to avoid his gaze. In the following days, Ryan took care of her at the hospital, but occasionally he would step out to answer phone calls, and each time he returned, his expression carried a hint of subtle tenderness. Wanda knew he was probably comforting Vanessa. Looking back now, even when they were together, he was always like this, stepping out to take calls from time to time, each time claiming it was something urgent. Yet she had never doubted until now that the other end of those calls was Vanessa. The doctor came to change her dressing. Wanda looked up and saw a young, handsome doctor. She paused for a moment, then asked softly, "You weren't my attending physician before, were you?" The young doctor smiled gently and said in a soft tone, "It's my mentor, I'm his intern. He's on rounds today, so I'm here to change your dressing instead." Wanda nodded slightly and didn't say anything more. The young doctor began changing her dressing with careful movements, though his face kept turning slightly red. Before leaving, he hesitated for a moment and suddenly asked, "Could I get your contact information?" Wanda was taken aback for a moment. Before she could respond, Ryan pushed the door open and walked in. His gaze swept coldly over the young doctor, his voice carrying a hint of warning. "She has a boyfriend, can't you see? Flirting with a patient. Do you not even want your internship position anymore?" The young doctor, intimidated by his demeanor, hastily apologized and left the room. Ryan walked over to Wanda with a cold expression, his tone tinged with displeasure. "Next time you meet someone like this, just say you have a boyfriend." "Is that so hard to say?" Wanda looked at him, feeling nothing but amusement in her heart. He claimed he would never like her in this lifetime, so what was this sudden possessiveness all about? Just a few days after being discharged from the hospital, Ryan suddenly suggested taking Wanda to a class reunion. She knew he had always disdained such events before, yet this time he took the initiative. Clearly, he had another agenda. Sure enough, upon arriving at the party venue, Wanda spotted Vanessa at first glance. Ryan appeared cold and distant toward Vanessa on the surface, as if they had little interaction, but genuine affection for someone cannot be hidden. When the party was halfway through, Wanda went to the restroom. When she returned, she found everyone playing Truth or Dare. Vanessa lost and was asked to answer a private question, her face flushed with embarrassment. Just as she was about to speak, Ryan suddenly snatched the card and said coldly, "I'll take the punishment for her." The question on the card was, "Who is your sexual fantasy? Give the initials of her name." Everyone chimed in. This topic might be private, but it's a piece of cake for him. He has a girlfriend, it must be her. Ryan paused for a moment before speaking calmly. Wanda's heart sank abruptly, her fingertips trembling slightly. Vanessa, she couldn't bear to watch any longer and turned to leave. After leaving the club, she sent Ryan a message, "I'm not feeling well, heading back first." Wanda stood by the roadside, just raising her hand to hail a taxi when a familiar voice suddenly called from behind, "Wanda." She paused in surprise, turned around, and saw Ryan walking briskly toward her. "How did you get out?" she asked, his brows slightly furrowed, a hint of urgency in his eyes. "Didn't you say you weren't feeling well? What's wrong? I'll take you to the hospital." Wanda looked at him, a wave of complex emotions surging in her heart. She shook her head, her voice calm. "I'm fine, just a bit dizzy." "Aren't you going to play anymore? You're my girlfriend. If my girlfriend says she's not feeling well and leaves, what am I still doing there?" After saying this, he reached out to touch her forehead, as if checking if she had a fever. Wanda looked at him, feeling somewhat puzzled. Didn't he come out this time just to see Vanessa? Why did he rush out because of her message? But she didn't ask further, nor was there any need to ask anymore. Just now, her parents sent her a message saying the procedures were almost complete. And she could leave this place the day after tomorrow, putting all of this behind her for good. Ryan felt her forehead and, finding it not feverish, finally relaxed. Without pressing further, he simply said in a low voice, "Let's go, we're going home." Immersive translate. In the middle of the night, Wanda was half asleep when she faintly heard the sound of a phone call coming from the balcony. She opened her eyes, tiptoed over, and discovered Ryan standing on the balcony smoking. His phone was on speaker mode, placed on the railing nearby. Though the sound was faint, leaning in allowed him to clearly hear the voice on the other end of the call. "Ryan, for the 99th revenge, we need to think of something brutal. Isn't it your anniversary the day after tomorrow? Just tell Wanda you've prepared a surprise for her, then blindfold her and take her to my abandoned villa. Once you're there, find an excuse to leave after you're out. We'll set the place on fire from the outside and lock the doors, trapping her in the flames. How's that?" "That's a great idea, she'll definitely be cornered." Frantically pounding on the door. "Exactly, let her taste despair." A burst of laughter came through the phone. As if everyone thought the proposal was a good idea. After picturing the scene, Ryan's uncontrollable veins slightly bulged, his voice tinged with anger. "No, I don't agree." "Why not agree again, Ryan? Didn't you always want to end this revenge game quickly?" "We promise, no lives will be lost. We'll open the door at the very last moment when she can't hold it in anymore." Ryan's voice remained cold and firm. "No, it's too risky, she can't be harmed." Someone on the other end of the phone said in confusion. "No way, Ryan, I heard today that you left Vanessa behind and ran after Wanda." "Vanessa cried all night, and it took you forever to calm her down, just to keep her from overthinking. You immediately started discussing the 99th revenge plan with us. Why is this not working and that not working? Do you even remember who you truly like? Hurry up and break up with Wanda, then go back to Vanessa. Isn't that what you've always wanted to do?" Ryan's breathing suddenly became rapid, as if he wanted to argue back, but just then, Vanessa's voice suddenly came through the phone. "Ryan, I just overheard your conversation, now I'm asking you directly. Do you agree or disagree with me using this method to get revenge on Wanda?" Ryan fell silent. Vanessa said with a sob in her voice, "You promised me you'd do anything for me." He finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "Agreed, I'll do whatever you say." Vanessa wiped away her tears and smiled, while the brothers excitedly said, "Great, we can't wait for that day." Ryan repeatedly reminded them, "Don't let anything go wrong." Wanda stood in the shadows, her heart feeling as if it were being tightly gripped by an invisible hand, the pain so intense she could barely breathe. She silently returned to her room, picked up her phone, and sent a message. Immersive translate. On the anniversary day, Ryan followed the plan and said to Wanda, "Wanda, I've prepared a surprise for you today. Close your eyes, and I'll take you somewhere." Wanda gazed at him deeply for a long moment, then without resistance, closed her eyes. Ryan curved his lips slightly, tied a silk ribbon over her eyes, and led her into the car. After the car stopped, Ryan helped her into the villa and whispered, "Wait here for me, I'll go get the gift and be right back." Wanda stood still, listening as his footsteps gradually faded away. Just as he was about to close the door, Wanda suddenly called out to him, "Ryan, you know what? I really like you." Ryan paused in his steps as her voice slowly reached him. "I've liked you for so long. When you agreed to be with me, I was truly happy. I thought I'd finally gotten my wish, so that night, I didn't sleep at all. I cried so much from excitement that I soaked my pillow." "Pretty silly, isn't it?" Ryan didn't speak. Only his breathing became slightly rapid. She whispered softly, "This is our 3rd anniversary, and the first time you've prepared a gift for me. I'm really looking forward to it." Ryan's throat felt dry, and after a long pause, he finally murmured, "I'll be right back. Wait for me." The door closed. Wanda also removed the ribbon at that moment and quickly caught the strong scent of gasoline in the air. She smiled, walked to the corner, and dragged out a human-shaped dummy corpse that had been prepared long ago. This was specially custom-made to match her appearance and height 1-to-1 after she heard the phone call that day. After the fire, everyone would believe it was her. She placed a voice recorder on the table, which had already recorded the distress sounds she prepared in advance. "Ryan, you've tricked me 98 times, the 99th time, it's my turn to trick you," she whispered, then pressed the play button on the voice recorder. Soon, her pre-recorded voice echoed through the villa, "Help, open the door, Ryan, save me." She turned and walked toward the back door, leaving the villa without a backward glance, hailing a taxi straight to the airport. In the distance, flames shot into the sky. illuminating the night. Far from the villa, a group of people screamed excitedly at the raging fire, frantically snapping photos. Ha ha ha, the 99th revenge is a success. We Ryan are finally going to get rid of Wanda, that love-struck fool. Once we're in, I'll definitely take plenty of ugly photos of her crying hysterically and post them online for the whole city to enjoy. The crimson glow of the fire illuminated their frenzied faces with striking clarity. Behind the crowd, Ryan felt uncomfortable for the first time listening to their conversation. For some reason, the image of Wanda at their parting suddenly flashed through his mind. It was also at this moment that he realized Wanda had been unusually calm, hadn't she? In the past, she had always been the most excited one during every anniversary. From securing the venue to arranging all the necessary items, she enthusiastically took care of everything. It can be said that the entire anniversary was Wanda prepared single-handedly by herself. Ryan had no chance to get involved from start to finish. He was quite happy with the outcome, as he didn't like her at all. He even had the audacity to blame her, thinking that if she hadn't bullied Vanessa, it wouldn't be her celebrating the anniversary with him now. But this anniversary, Wanda was unusually quiet. From the moment they left for the villa, she sat silently in the passenger seat. Apart from a few inexplicable words of confession, she didn't ask him a single question about the details of their anniversary. She was like a rag doll, completely at his mercy. Moreover, he had been away for so long, and the fire had been raging for just as long, yet she hadn't even bothered to call him once. Finally realizing something was amiss, Ryan hurriedly opened his phone. He kept refreshing the phone's page incessantly, no matter how many times he refreshed. The call interface and message interface between him and Wanda still didn't show any new updates. His heartbeat accelerated wildly, and a terrible premonition instantly spread throughout his body. He suddenly raised his head, his face pale, and looked toward the villa engulfed in flames. Finally, he could no longer stand still and lifted his foot to run toward the villa. Hey, Ryan, where are you going? The others were startled when they saw Ryan running toward the villa and quickly tried to stop him. Just as Ryan was about to speak, a deafening explosion suddenly rang out. Bang! A massive mushroom cloud instantly rose above the villa. Everyone's expressions changed instantly, their hearts sinking with dread. Just as they were about to investigate, one explosion after another resounded across the sky. Amidst intermittent explosions, thick plumes of black smoke billowed upward. Debris and fragments flew in all directions, sharp as arrows. Ryan's mind went blank. Consumed by the thought that Wanda was still inside, he was desperate to rush into the villa, but he was firmly held back by the people around him. Ryan, calm down. You'll die if you go in. We've already called the police. The rescue team will be here soon. She'll be fine. Ryan's eyes were bloodshot, fixed unblinkingly on the raging flames. Get out. With sudden, inexplicable strength, he violently broke free from the people restraining him and lunged toward the inferno. Ryan, bang! Another deafening explosion rang out. Heavy rain washed over the ground as black smoke billowed from the charred ruins, their flames extinguished by the downpour. Rescuers with search dogs combed through the debris looking for Wanda's remains. Yes, remains. After all, no one could have survived such a massive fire and the continuous explosions. In the distance, Ryan, covered in blood, ignored the doctor's warnings and stood in the pouring rain, awaiting the final verdict. Here's someone. The rescuer's sudden exclamation instantly brought light back to Ryan's previously lifeless eyes. He dragged his stiff body and rushed forward swiftly. Just then, the rescue worker lifted from the ruins a corpse with a disfigured face, its body covered in a mix of blood and soot. Due to the massive explosion and fire, the entire body had been burned and curled up. The horrifying face was directly facing Ryan's direction, yet he still recognized the owner of this corpse, because not long ago, he had personally sent her into the raging fire. Ryan's movements froze as he gazed long and silently at the frail body. He stood there, like a statue. In the distance, the rescuers carried Wanda's body with heavy steps as they approached Ryan. Then they carefully placed the stretcher in front of him. Mr. Ryan, please accept our condolences. The rain grew heavier, blurring Ryan's vision. He fell to his knees with a thud, his eyes turning bloodshot. Ryan's outstretched hand trembled uncontrollably, failing several times to lift the body before him. In the end, it was only with the help of the rescue team that he managed to tightly embrace Wanda's lifeless body. Just half a day earlier, Wanda had been sitting in the passenger seat beside him, smiling brightly with sparkling eyes as she spoke of her affections. Now she lay silent and still in his arms, her icy body temperature spread to him, making his entire heart feel as if wrapped in freezing cold. "Wanda, stop joking with me, wake up quickly, okay," he called out to the person in his arms over and over, but she remained silent as if throwing a tantrum with him. Ryan didn't mind. Just as he used to act coquettishly with Wanda, pressing his face against hers, the bloodstains and thick dust on her face smeared onto his, yet he didn't even furrow his brow. Ryan remembered many things. Over the years, he had kept many things hidden from Wanda, and the most distant memory was that he had noticed her much earlier than she had imagined. At the freshman welcome party that year, his gaze was instantly captured by Wanda dancing gracefully on stage. Her light footsteps, fluttering skirt, and radiant smile, he still remembers it vividly to this day. Perhaps noticing his fascination, his roommate beside him whispered excitedly. Sharing the girl's background, the roommate said a lot, but the only thing Ryan remembered was her name, Wanda. It sounded like an exceptionally lovely and beautiful name. He silently repeated it several times under his breath. He even said her name together with his own once. They sounded perfect together. No, the person he likes is Vanessa, and the only one who will share a household registration with him in the future is her. Although Ryan was certain about Vanessa, his gaze kept following Wanda. He would see her smiling and chatting with others on the steps, and also catch glimpses of her chasing after friends under the sunset. Unknowingly, his heart and eyes were filled with Wanda's shadow. Later, Wanda also developed feelings for him and began pursuing him. He found himself faintly tempted to say yes, but this flicker of impulse was quickly suppressed, until Vanessa coquettishly asked him to take revenge for her against Wanda. His first reaction was to refuse. He couldn't believe such a lovely girl would do something so cruel. But when Vanessa heard his refusal, she started making unreasonable demands again, even going so far as to cause a scene on the rooftop. After all, he still liked her and naturally didn't want her to become like this, so he agreed to Vanessa's demand of taking revenge on Wanda 99 times before breaking up with her. During the first revenge against Wanda, he actually felt more guilt than satisfaction. After all, such a wonderful girl nearly lost her life because of his revenge. But as revenge became more frequent, he gradually grew numb, and Vanessa's face began to show more smiles, so the last trace of guilt in his heart vanished completely. Until that time when they drugged Wanda without his permission and handed her over to a group of thugs, he erupted in anger after many years. At the time, he thought it was just his pride acting up. After all, Wanda was still his girlfriend. If word got out that his girlfriend had been violated, where would his dignity be? It was also because of this incident that his feelings for Wanda gradually began to change, but he still didn't care until today, when he threw Wanda into the fire, and she said she was looking forward to his gift. Ryan suddenly felt a pang of panic. This panic was even stronger than when he learned Vanessa was going to leave him. In that moment of his hesitation and doubt, he had actually considered many possible answers. According to the original plan, after this act of revenge concluded, he would publicly reveal the true purpose behind his relationship with her, and demand that she publicly apologize to Vanessa. Then his relationship with Wanda would be completely over. If she showed sincerity, he would consider giving her some money as compensation, but at that time, what he thought was that he wouldn't humiliate her after the revenge was over. He would also give her some money as compensation, allowing them to part on good terms. But when he saw the raging fire and his phone with no new messages, Ryan panicked. At that moment he had only one thought: save Wanda. She absolutely must not come to harm. As long as she could come out safely, he would agree to anything she asked, including Wanda's long-held New Year's wish, to be his wife. But all of this is predicated on Wanda still being alive. His unfocused eyes slowly fell upon her lifeless face. Ryan had held Wanda many times, but never as gently or for as long as this time. He held her and walked for a long time. Gradually, a crowd gathered around them. There were his brother's expressions of fear and regret, Vanessa's eyes filled with resentment and jealousy, and many more gazes filled with sorrow. But Ryan pretended not to see it. A massive fire turned the entire capital city upside down overnight. Countless families were Warner family's frenzied attacks within a single night. Meanwhile, their heir was being Ryan locked in the basement and beaten relentlessly. Ryan was like an out-of-control beast, punching the person on the ground repeatedly. Why were there gasoline barrels in that villa? Why did your people escape first? Why didn't you save her? Why did you have to kill her? According to their original revenge plan, they didn't intend to keep Wanda locked up for long. Moreover, as a precaution, they assigned dedicated personnel to guard Wanda inside. If the fire got out of control, those people would immediately rescue her. But unexpectedly, many gasoline barrels suddenly appeared inside, but the very people they sought were afraid of death. Yet those people were so focused on fleeing that they forgot about Wanda's existence. The man on the ground was already beaten bloody by Ryan's fists. Unable to speak a word, they knew full well they had started a massive fire, so beyond begging for mercy, they couldn't utter a single extra word. Ryan, we were wrong, truly wrong. We genuinely didn't know there were gasoline barrels inside. If we had known, we would never have started that fire. Please, spare us. A dozen blood-covered people knelt on the ground, continuously kowtowing and begging for mercy from Ryan, but the man before them didn't even glance their way, uttering the most ruthless words in the calmest tone, spare you? Then go to hell and atone for her sins. Amidst the terrified screams of the crowd, the basement door was slammed shut. When Ryan emerged from the basement covered in blood, Vanessa on the sofa quickly stood up. Ryan. Vanessa's words froze in her throat as she paled at the sight of blood on him, but Ryan ignored her completely, turning his gaze to the butler instead. Has the burial site for Madam been selected? Madam, Vanessa looked at Ryan in surprise. Ryan, what do you mean by this? Vanessa quickly stepped forward to grab him, her eyes filled with disbelief. Aren't I your future wife? I'm not dead yet. Seeing the woman inexplicably going mad before him, Ryan was filled with displeasure in his eyes. How had he never noticed before Vanessa could be so unreasonable? Vanessa, my wife is not you, but Wanda. A simple sentence drained the color from Vanessa's face. Ryan, you must be out of your mind. What kind of lady is she? Don't forget her status. Don't tell me you've fallen for someone like that. Actually, Vanessa should have guessed it long ago. After all, ever since Vanessa died, Ryan has become a completely different person. Not only did he unleash a series of retaliations against those who had harmed Wanda, but he also shut himself indoors all day, living and sleeping with Wanda's corpse. Even Vanessa, the publicly acknowledged fiancée of Ryan, rarely got to see him. At first Vanessa didn't take it seriously, thinking he was just unaccustomed. After all, even a dog raised for 3 years would evoke emotions, let alone a living, breathing person. But Vanessa was repeatedly turned away when she visited Warner's home, and she finally panicked. She looked at the person before her in distress, desperately hoping he would utter a single word of refusal. But the Ryan before her simply gazed at her with profound silence in his eyes. There wasn't the slightest ripple in that gaze. Her heart grew heavier, and the corners of her eyes gradually brimmed with glistening tears. Do you really have feelings for her? What about me? I've waited for you for so long. All you needed was to take revenge on her 99 times, and we could be together. I've waited 3 years for you. But in the end, why did you fall for such a bitch? Vanessa, Ryan finally couldn't hold back and shouted at her. Please show some respect to my wife. The woman who had been lamenting the fickleness of men, Vanessa, was stunned by his outburst and froze in place. You actually yelled at me, Ryan, how dare you? Since childhood, Vanessa had been pampered and spoiled. No one had ever yelled at her, let alone spoken to her loudly. Furious, Vanessa could no longer restrain herself and extended her long nails, aiming to scratch Ryan's face. Ryan naturally wouldn't let her act recklessly and immediately reached out to push Vanessa to the ground. Someone escort Miss Song out. Ryan, the heavy door was tightly shut, leaving Vanessa's heart-wrenching screams outside. Wanda. The day of the burial was yet another rainy day. Ryan held Wanda's urn, carefully placing it into the grave before sealing it bit by bit. After everything was done, the sound of many people crying rose behind him. Wanda had always been well liked, except for the Carlson parents, who settled abroad immersed in the grief of losing their daughter. All others who knew Wanda, including those who had met her just once, came to mourn her. The sound of weeping mingled with the drizzling rain, faint and indistinct, yet it only deepened the sorrow. Ryan knelt before Wanda's tombstone like a statue, repeatedly tracing his fingers over the inscription "Beloved wife Wanda, Wanda." Before the words could leave his lips, tears had already begun to stream from the corners of his eyes. For as long as the heavy rain poured, Ryan remained kneeling in the downpour. That night, having been drenched in the rain all night, Ryan unsurprisingly developed a high fever. In his dazed state, he had a dream. He dreamed of Wanda. This was the first time he had dreamed of Wanda since her death. The scene in the dream was still that raging fire, but this time, he didn't let go of Wanda's hand. Instead, he fled with her. Amid the all-consuming flames, he gripped Wanda's hand tightly, with more force than ever before. Just as Ryan was about to lead Wanda to safety, Wanda suddenly stopped. No matter how hard he pulled, she remained motionless. In the dream, the fire had already begun to spread toward the pile of gasoline barrels. Ryan grew increasingly frantic, desperately screaming for Wanda to come out. But Wanda pried his fingers away one by one, then resolutely turned and rushed into the flames. Wanda, amidst a tremendous explosion, Wanda was instantly engulfed in flames. Wanda, in his sleep, Ryan suddenly jolted awake, gasping for breath. The cold sweat on his forehead was brushed by the chilly wind blowing through the window, startling him into an involuntary shiver. Ryan weakly sat up from the bed and reached for his phone to check it. The door was urgently knocked by the butler. "Sir, something has happened to Madam's grave." No one had expected Vanessa to suddenly go mad. Not only digging up Wanda's grave overnight but also attempting to smash her urn. Looking at the woman in front of him who was clutching Wanda's ashes and acting hysterically, Ryan could only feel a throbbing pain in his forehead. He struggled to suppress his anger and coldly ordered the Vanessa before him to put down the urn. Ryan shouldn't have mentioned it, because as soon as he did, Vanessa started screaming hysterically again. "No way. That bitch stole my dance championship before she died, and now she's trying to take my Mrs. Warner title after death. Why does she get to have everything good? I shouldn't have framed her back then. I should have just killed her outright, but it doesn't matter now. It's not too late. I'll smash her urn right now and make sure she never rests in peace." Ryan never expected Vanessa to go so mad as to self-destruct, nor did he anticipate that everything back then was all her own orchestration. But there was no time to think. In a frenzy, he rushed forward to shield Wanda's ashes, yet his weakened body betrayed him at the last moment. Just as he was about to protect Wanda's ashes, his legs gave way, sending him collapsing to the ground, as if in slow motion. Ryan watched helplessly as Wanda's urn hit the ground. The box shattered into pieces, and the ashes inside scattered in all directions, dissolving into the light rain, vanishing without a trace in an instant. Ryan stood frozen for a long moment before suddenly coughing up a mouthful of blood. "Wanda, the capital city has been quite lively recently, so much so that even Wanda, who is far away in the United States, has heard about it." Regarding Ryan's inexplicable actions after her death, Wanda simply smiled without saying a word. At this moment, Wanda's mom placed a bowl of dark traditional Chinese medicine in front of her. "Wanda, it's time to take your medicine." Wanda obediently responded, then downed the traditional Chinese medicine in one gulp. Seeing her little face scrunch up from the bitterness, Wanda's mom quickly popped a candied fruit into her mouth. "Be good, bear with it a little longer. Just 2 more doses and it'll be over. By then, your leg will be healed, and you can stand on stage again." At the end, Wanda's mom had a flicker of pain in her eyes, lovingly stroking Wanda's hair. Listening to Wanda's mom's words, Wanda also turned her gaze to her own legs. She had indeed managed to escape the fire back then, but no one expected there to be a pile of gasoline barrels in the abandoned warehouse. A series of explosions caused Wanda to be knocked down by the blast, and her legs were crushed by heavy objects, forcing her to temporarily leave the stage. Later, she and Wanda's dad, Wanda's mom, came to the United States, where her parents sought medical treatment for her everywhere. Until today, Wanda's leg has finally shown improvement. At night, Wanda lay in bed frantically browsing job postings and sending resumes to various dance companies. Applying to dance companies abroad is different from applying domestically. Applying to dance companies abroad requires submitting a resume at least 3 months in advance, along with participating in various assessments within the company during that period. Only after passing all the assessments can one join the dance company. So Wanda couldn't afford to wait for her leg to fully recover and began widely submitting resumes while also practicing in her home dance studio. Although in recent years, she hadn't been able to join any dance company due to Ryan's retaliation. But whenever she had free time, she would secretly practice her basic skills. This is why Wanda's dancing skills never regressed. 3 months later, during the final assessment of a renowned dance troupe, Wanda gracefully danced across the stage. As she effortlessly flipped a full circle in mid-air, her assessment finally came to an end. The brilliant performance earned straight A's from all the judges in the audience. At the end of the comments, one of the judges curiously asked, "Carlson, I've seen your resume, you really love dancing, you've been practicing since you were 3 without a single break, but starting from your junior year in college, you never participated in any competitions again. May I ask why?" Wanda tightened her grip on the microphone before answering. "Because I was deceived by a man for 3 years." Noticing the judge's slightly surprised expressions, Wanda smiled faintly and continued, "But that was all in the past. From now on, my life will only have dance, with no room for love." Wanda passed the audition swiftly. As the only candidate to receive straight A's in the Twilight dance troupe, she attracted exceptional attention from the moment she joined. Within just a year, she took over the title from the previous lead dancer and shone brilliantly in her debut performance, receiving widespread acclaim, with the dance troupe's rising popularity. Major theaters across the country have begun extending invitations to the Twilight dance troupe. Facing a thick stack of invitations, the troupe leader looked at Wanda with great hesitation. She was well aware of Wanda's past experiences and knew about her extreme reluctance to return to the country. After careful consideration, the leader decided that Wanda wouldn't need to join the troupe for this domestic tour. But before the leader could speak, Wanda interrupted her. "Leader, I want to go on this tour too. I can't hold back the entire dance troupe for my own reasons." But Wanda knew what the troupe leader was worried about. After all, she had faked her death to escape the country. If she were to suddenly appear in front of familiar faces now, it might cause unnecessary panic. Moreover, Wanda didn't want to encounter Ryan again, so she brought out the pre-prepared excuse, "I'll just wear a mask when the time comes. As for press conferences or anything like that, the other team members can handle the talking. I'll just be a mute." The team leader tapped his fingers on the table a few times before finally nodding. "All right, we'll do it your way." The first stop of Twilight Dance Troupe's national tour was naturally the capital city. As one of the most popular dance troupes recently, the tickets sold out within seconds after being released by the organizers. The troupe's popularity was so immense that even Ryan, who usually wouldn't care, received several tickets from business partners. The assistant beside him watched the man at the desk nervously, swallowing hard. Internally, he couldn't help but think the partner who sent these tickets was being inconsiderate. Ever since a year ago, Mrs. Warner's urn was smashed by Vanessa, Mr. Ryan went mad. Although the culprit had already been sent to prison by the Warner family, some of Mrs. Warner's ashes were recovered and reburied, but from then on, Ryan couldn't stand hearing anything related to dance. Once, a business partner who hadn't done prior research brought Ryan a female companion to a cocktail party. They even specifically mentioned that the woman had a dance background. The partner thought they were catering to Ryan's preferences, but instead, they were Ryan stepping all over his biggest pet peeve. Ryan didn't spare the partners any face, immediately turning hostile on the spot. The partners gained no benefits and were subsequently blacklisted by the Warner family. Everyone assumed Ryan acted this way because he despised dancing, but the assistant knew Ryan was afraid, as he would always have nightmares after hearing anything related to dance. In the dream, it's always that day's fire, and the one who never made it out alive. Wanda, thinking of the fate of that business partner, the assistant silently mourned for the one who had sent the dance troupe tickets. The assistant took a deep breath, preparing to bear the brunt of Ryan's anger. Unexpectedly, Ryan not only picked up the tickets but also examined them carefully. The ticket was quite large, yet its design was extremely minimalist, with no unnecessary clutter beyond the essential information. For some inexplicable reason, Ryan recalled a scene from long ago. Back then, Wanda was still around, even interning at the dance troupe, designing various tickets for them. Every time she returned late at night, Ryan could always hear her complaints about the dance troupe. Especially, the design of dance troupe tickets has become a major problem area. Wanda prefers simplicity, so the ticket designs she creates are also primarily minimalist in style. However, no matter how beautifully she designs them, they always get rejected by the higher-ups in the end. The reason given is that they're not flashy enough. Every time he complained about this, Wanda would mimic how the higher-up said those things, often making him laugh. By the end of the rant, Wanda would always secretly vow that once she had the authority, she would design the simplest troupe tickets possible. but throughout the year, Ryan never saw any simply designed tickets, until today, as if by some supernatural influence, he suddenly felt an impulse to go and watch. So he carefully put away the ticket and instructed his assistant beside him, "Prepare the car." Inside the theater, the crowd was bustling, and from time to time, someone would come to the front row to greet Ryan. Ryan remained as indifferent as ever. No matter how much others flattered him, they would only receive a simple hum in response. Perhaps noticing Ryan's lack of enthusiasm, no one dared to disturb him further. Soon the curtain rose. Under the spotlight, a woman in a pink dance dress, holding a round fan, danced gracefully to the music. Her flowing hair resembled black satin, and every smile and frown captivated the audience's gaze. The only pity was that the woman wore a half mask from start to finish, making it impossible to see her true face. Even the previously disinterested Ryan straightened his back, his originally calm eyes now tinged with a trace of complex emotion. The reason was none other than the fact that the woman's dancing style on stage was all too familiar to him. In his memory, there was only one person who danced like this. On a certain afternoon that year, Wanda excitedly dragged Ryan to the practice room, eager to show him the new dance routine she had choreographed. At that time, Wanda's dancing figure gradually overlapped with the woman in the pink dance dress on stage now. In a daze, Ryan seemed to see Wanda again. He couldn't help but reach out his hand, wanting to touch the woman's face, yet, without even glancing at him, the woman gently walked away again. Wanda, Ryan felt an inexplicable panic and instinctively rose to chase after her. The next moment, thunderous applause erupted. The audience below the stage rose to their feet in cheers, and all the dancers on stage, hand in hand, rushed to the front from behind the rising curtain once more, bowing deeply. It was at this moment that Ryan finally reacted, joining the crowd in applause, but his gaze still followed the woman in the pink dance dress. Backstage, small groups of young girls excitedly celebrated the success of their domestic debut while waving at Wanda, who stood in the corner. Wanda politely nodded at them, her hands still pressed against her chest, trying to calm her wildly beating heart. From the moment she set foot again on the soil of City J, she knew deep down that there would inevitably come a day when she would meet Ryan again, but Wanda never expected this reunion to come so soon. Even through the thick mask, she could still sense the complex gaze he fixed upon her. In the past, Wanda would have lost her composure and missed a step in front of everyone. Now, she simply pretended not to notice, even if Ryan started to suspect her. So what? As long as she refuses to admit it, there's no way to prove she is Wanda. Moreover, back when she faked her death, Ryan held a funeral for her in front of the entire City J. Thinking of this, Wanda's restless heart also calmed down. Just as she was about to return to her dressing room to remove her makeup, the dance troupe leader suddenly came down and clapped their hands. "Everyone, get ready. The Warner family's president and other leaders will be coming backstage to greet us soon." At these words, the young girls immediately erupted into excited screams. The Warner family's president is young and wealthy. If they could gain his favor, their future status would undoubtedly rise to new heights. With this thought, everyone rushed back to the dressing room to freshen up, each wanting to present their best selves before Ryan's eyes. Only Wanda stood quietly in place, her mind filled with chaos. "All right, Ryan, what are you doing backstage?" Even in Ryan's most fervent year of pursuing her, he never came backstage. At most, he'd have his assistant deliver flowers to her. Wanda grew increasingly confused, her hands clenched tightly at her sides, nails digging into her palms without her even noticing. The troop leader's slightly worried voice sounded beside her ear, pulling Wanda's thoughts back. "Leader, what's wrong? You don't look well. Are you feeling unwell? Maybe you should go back to the hotel to rest first. As for Mr. Ryan, you don't need to worry about him." Wanda bit her lip and remained silent. She was indeed in an unstable emotional state and couldn't guarantee what might happen if she saw Ryan again. So Wanda finally agreed to the team leader's suggestion. Without even removing her mask, she hurriedly walked out. But just then, she suddenly heard footsteps approaching from ahead, followed by the eager voice of a stranger. "Mr. Ryan, please, we are truly honored by your presence at our dance troupe." As he spoke, the man moved to lift Wanda's thick curtain. Her heart instantly tightened, and she quickly turned to hide in a corner. Just as Ryan also walked backstage, the moment he entered, the dance troupe girls rushed toward Ryan in a flurry, chattering greetings at him. In an instant, The strong perfume from the girls flooded Ryan's nostrils, making him involuntarily frown. He endured the discomfort silently, quietly observing the group of girls before him. Suddenly, his gaze fell upon a certain corner, and with just one glance, he identified his target. That must be the lead dancer of your troupe, right? With just that one sentence, everyone's attention shifted to the very last person, Wanda. As the center of attention, Wanda slightly stiffened, her heartbeat slowing for a moment. Seeing that she hadn't left yet, the team leader thought to himself that this was bad, but ultimately steeled himself and waved at Wanda. Soon, Wanda walked up to Ryan, who no longer bothered to hide his gaze. He scrutinized Wanda thoroughly from head to toe, but unfortunately, since she was still wearing a mask, he still couldn't see her true face. His intense stare made Wanda extremely uncomfortable, but she didn't dare make any sudden moves. Afraid of giving herself away in front of him, the two of them stood in silence for a long while, until finally Ryan spoke first. "Why, are you still wearing a mask after stepping down?" From the moment this woman appeared, Ryan's gaze was completely fixed on her. Unable to look away, while everyone else was doing their utmost to capture his attention, only this woman was avoiding his gaze. Even when leaving the stage, she was the first to quickly step down. This naturally caught Ryan's attention. After all, since he held the press conference announcing that he was married and widowed, City J's women chasing after him were as numerous as fish in the water. Only this woman before him avoided him as if he were some kind of monstrous beast. Moreover, the moment she danced on stage just now even made him think he had seen Wanda. If he hadn't personally buried Wanda's ashes, Ryan would have thought he'd seen a ghost, and so, with too many questions in mind, he came backstage immediately after the show ended, standing before this masked woman. Compared to the distance across a stage just moments ago, this close proximity now allowed Ryan to clearly smell the other person's perfume and distinctly hear their heartbeat. He increasingly felt that the person before him was strangely familiar. An utterly impossible guess suddenly surfaced in his mind, and the other's silence only fueled his inexplicable confidence. He slowly raised his trembling hand toward the other's face, and the closer it got to the mask, the faster his heart raced and the tighter his breath became. Meanwhile, Wanda hadn't anticipated at all that Ryan would directly reach out, based on her past understanding of Ryan's temperament. If another woman didn't answer his question promptly, he would darken his expression and walk away. That's why Wanda took the risk, and that's why she never expected him to act this way. As his hand drew closer to her mask, Wanda felt her entire body stiffen, her heart pounding in her chest. Just as Ryan was about to touch Wanda's mask, a sudden, urgent ringtone pierced the air. The next moment, Ryan quickly withdrew his hand and pulled out his phone to answer. "Hello." Whatever was said on the other end, Ryan's expression visibly darkened, then he couldn't even spare a glance for the Wanda before him, hastily turning to leave. Only when his retreating figure disappeared from sight did Wanda's rigid posture finally relax. She slowly unclenched her tightly clenched hand, already damp with sweat. At night, the rest of the dance troupe went out to enjoy the night view of Qingyan, taking in City J's nighttime scenery. Having grown up in City J, Wanda naturally wouldn't go. After bidding farewell to the group members, Wanda boarded the car back to the hotel. Just as she arrived at the hotel and got out of the car, she happened to see Ryan emerging from a crowd of people. She instinctively turned to leave, but suddenly heard Ryan's voice from behind. "Wait a moment." Wanda, her expression changed, and she quickly pulled out the mask from her bag and put it on. When she turned around again, Ryan had already walked up to her. Facing this woman still wearing a mask, Ryan remained puzzled. "You're off work already, why are you still wearing it?" Wanda knew she couldn't avoid it this time, but she didn't want to speak with him, so she first pointed to her throat and waved her hand. Then she typed a line on her phone and handed it to him. To maintain the mystery, this time it was Ryan who froze. Why?" Wanda tapped on the keyboard again. "An accident. Did you call me for something?" Ryan finally reacted and quickly said, "I was too abrupt today. As compensation, I'd like to treat you to a meal. Is that okay?" Wanda frowned slightly. She had no desire to dine with him at all. She might lose her appetite if she did, but just then, her stomach growled loudly. Hearing the sound from her stomach, Wanda quickly covered her belly. Forgetting to hide her blushing ears, Ryan chuckled softly and then said, "It won't take long, we'll just dine at a restaurant near the hotel." Seeing his persistence, Wanda could no longer politely refuse. afraid that acting too strangely would draw even more of his attention. Eventually, she would surely give herself away. The quiet restaurant was filled only with the sound of cutlery touching plates. Ryan wasn't very hungry to begin with, so he thoughtfully cut the steak for the woman across from him. Wanda didn't refuse any of it, as she was genuinely hungry now. For dancers, dieting is indeed important. But dancing itself requires a lot of energy. If they don't replenish their energy in time, they might end up embarrassing themselves on stage. So Wanda kept her head down, eating the food on her plate without even glancing at Ryan across from her. Although the food on her plate was indeed delicious, she couldn't ignore the persistent gaze from the person sitting opposite her. It's hard for her to ignore, so Wanda put down her knife and fork, picked up her phone, typed a few words, and then handed it to Ryan to see. "Why have you been staring at me?" Ryan was staring at her intently, increasingly feeling that she resembled Wanda, which is why he blurted it out. "You remind me of someone from my past." "Someone from your past? Who?" Wanda couldn't be bothered to type on the keyboard, so she borrowed paper and pen from a nearby waiter and continued asking. Ryan clenched his hands, then smiled bitterly. "My wife." Perhaps the person before him looked too much like Wanda. Ryan let his guard down completely. He poured out all the pain he had buried in his heart over the past year to the person across from him. "I loved my wife deeply, but because of some malicious rumors from outsiders, I made a wrong judgment. In the end, it led to my wife perishing in the fire. Since then, I've dreamed every night. In my dreams, I always managed to grab her hand in the flames, but just as we're about to escape, she always breaks free from my grasp and throws herself back into the fire. And ever since her ashes were scattered by her rival in love, I haven't dreamed of her again. Over the past year, I've visited many temples, but every abbot gave me the same answer. She refuses to see me." Years of pent-up emotions finally erupted at this moment. The usually ruthless man broke down in tears, sobbing uncontrollably in front of a strange woman. If Wanda were just an ordinary person, she would have been deeply moved by Ryan's love story and might even have handed a tissue to the remorseful, weeping man. Unfortunately, she was precisely Ryan's heroine in the story. She even knew Ryan was hiding too many details in his words, but she couldn't be bothered to expose him. The Wanda who once loved him with her life had long died in that fire. The current Wanda could be anyone, but she would never have the slightest connection with Ryan again. Wanda's silence finally made the man before her realize his own impropriety. He quickly wiped away his tears and composed himself. Finally, he apologized to her and politely offered to escort her back to the hotel. But just then, an unexpected incident occurred. A speeding out-of-control car suddenly rushed toward them, its blinding high beams illuminating Wanda's pale face. "Look out!" Standing straight in place, Wanda was instantly knocked to the roadside by a force of gravity, her mask falling off immediately, but she had no time to think about anything else, quickly turning her head to look, only to see Ryan sent flying by the momentum. The scene instantly descended into chaos. The screams of bystanders, the wail of police sirens, and the sound of ambulances blended into a cacophony, assaulting Ryan's ears, but he couldn't care about anything else. Staring wide-eyed at the woman who had revealed her true appearance before him, his eyes filled with disbelief. Wanda, in the hospital. Ryan on the stretcher tightly grasped Wanda's hand. As for Wanda's resurrection, he had far too many questions. But all he could do now was hold on to her, not letting Wanda leave. He feared this might be a dream, terrified that if she woke again, she would disappear once more. Yet even Ryan's strongest will couldn't withstand the unconsciousness brought on by severe blood loss. Just before he entered the operating room, with the doctor's slightest movement, Ryan's hand naturally fell limp. Wanda rubbed her reddened wrist while watching the operating room door close firmly in front of her. She turned to leave immediately. After all, her identity had already been exposed to Ryan. If she stayed any longer, she couldn't imagine how much more entanglement there would be between them. Just as Wanda turned around, the sound of something heavy hitting the ground suddenly rang out right in front of her. Instinctively, she looked toward the source of the noise and saw Ryan's assistant in a state of panic. Madam." In the end, Wanda naturally didn't leave. The assistant firmly stopped her. "Madam, I beg you not to leave. You don't know what Mr. Ryan has been through all these years. Even if you don't want to mention the past, I implore you to stay and keep him company for the sake of Mr. Ryan saving your life." Wanda let out a long sigh. "First, don't call me madam. We're not even boyfriend and girlfriend. Secondly, I can stay with him, But once I'm sure he's okay, I still have to leave. After all, I don't want to have any further relationship with him. Wanda, with every word she spoke, the assistant's expression grew more awkward. In the end, the assistant had no choice but to compromise and agree to Wanda's every demand. The two sat quietly on chairs outside the operating room, waiting. Just as Wanda turned on her phone screen for the 21st time to check the time, the operating room doors swung open. His head wrapped in bandages, Ryan was wheeled out. To Wanda's surprise, Ryan was actually conscious when he was wheeled out. His previously unfocused eyes suddenly lit up the moment they saw her, Wanda, in the VIP ward. Ryan ignored his own injuries and tightly held Wanda in his arms, his voice filled with ecstasy and lingering fear. "Thank goodness, you're still alive. I thought it was just a dream. I was afraid you'd disappear again after I came out of the operating room. Thank goodness, thank goodness." But Wanda's tone was unusually calm. "But I don't feel thankful at all, Wanda." She clearly felt the large hands holding her stiffen, then abruptly pulled them down and walked away. "Ryan, do you know what my greatest fortune is? It's never seeing you again." After all, no one could endure 99 acts of revenge from their most trusted, most beloved partner and still remain so composed in their presence. Her calm words, one after another, were like hemp ropes tied around his heart, gradually tightening, leaving him inexplicably breathless until he was suffocated. Ryan ignored his injuries and frantically rolled out of bed. His mind was in complete chaos. He didn't know how Wanda had found out about those things. Only one thought filled his heart and mind: to keep her here. Ryan rushed over swiftly and pulled the person into his arms, trembling as he said, "Wanda, Wanda, listen to me explain." Wanda had no intention of listening to him speak here. The dance troupe had a performance tomorrow, and she needed to return early to rest and conserve her energy. So Wanda directly pushed him away with her hand. "Let go of me." "No, I won't." Ryan also shook his head frantically, not wanting her to let go of his hand again like in the dream, and then endure the excruciating pain once more. Wanda saw that a direct approach wouldn't work and could only change her tone, sighing as she said, "Ryan, I have a performance tomorrow. Do you still want to drag the whole team down with me, just like you ruined my competition before?" Her words successfully made his expression change, and the strength in his grip loosened slightly. It seemed he had also recalled that incident. That year was Wanda and Ryan's first week of dating, and also her debut competition as the lead dancer. For this competition, Wanda had been preparing for over half a year. During this time, she continuously revised the choreography with the team members, striving to perfect the dance. But just the day before the competition, she was Ryan locked in the apartment, and even her phone was taken away by him. The despair and breakdown of that day Wanda still remembers vividly. Even the disappointed looks from her teammates are fresh in her memory. She quietly observed his expression, which remained calm, yet his eyes were filled with conflict and pain. In the end, Ryan still chose to let go. For the next half-month, Wanda was swamped with performances, leaving her with no extra energy to care about Ryan. It wasn't until after the final performance that she finally welcomed a long-awaited vacation. Just as Wanda was about to rent a car for a road trip, she received a call from Ryan's assistant. The assistant on the phone only said that Ryan was in trouble and begged her to come to the Warner household. Familiar with Ryan's temperament, Wanda assumed it was just another one of his retaliatory acts, but she couldn't be bothered to expose him. She just said good-naturedly, "I'm not a doctor, and I can't help him." Without waiting for a response, she hung up the phone. To prevent further disturbance, she even considerately added the caller's number to the blacklist. After that, Wanda tossed her phone aside and prepared to take a taxi to the car rental agency. After getting in the car and telling the driver the destination, Wanda dozed off in the back seat. A long time later, the driver stopped the car and woke Wanda up, simply saying they had arrived. Wanda didn't think much of it, paid the fare, and groggily got out of the car. Only when she saw the building in front of her did she realize the driver had taken the wrong route. He had actually brought her to Warner's villa. Wanda was both annoyed and amused as she took out her phone to hail another ride, already heading out the door. Just then, the villa's front door swung open, and the Warner family's butler emerged with a group of servants in tow. At the sight of Wanda, the butler was both shocked and delighted. "Miss Wanda, you've finally arrived." With that, the butler led the group as they ushered Wanda into the villa. Stepping back into the Warner family villa, a fleeting look of disorientation flashed in her eyes. At that time, Wanda had left in such a hurry that she didn't take many things with her. Thus, the entire villa remained exactly as it was when she left years ago, making her momentarily feel as if she had never left at all. The butler beside her was extremely attentive, serving her tea while explaining the whole story. Ryan did not seek revenge against her. Ever since parting with Wanda last time, he seemed like a completely different person, locking himself in his room all day drinking, while calling out her name. The butler, fearing something might happen to Ryan, used this method to summon Wanda here. As he led Wanda upstairs, he quietly explained the situation to her. After hearing the butler's words, Wanda felt a mix of emotions in her heart. Ryan looked as if he wanted to tell outsiders that he couldn't live without her, but if he truly loved her, why had he been so ruthless in taking revenge on her back then? As the butler gently pushed open the door, a strong smell of alcohol suddenly rushed into Wanda's nostrils. The heavy curtains were tightly drawn, leaving Wanda only able to faintly discern the slumped figure on the floor. She didn't enter, just stood at the door and smiled faintly at the butler. Isn't he still alive and well? It seems there's no need for me anymore. After saying this, Wanda turned to leave, startling the butler who hurriedly blocked her while shouting into the house, "Sir, Ms. Wanda is here." Hearing this, the drunken man sitting on the ground lifted his eyelids and looked hazily toward the door. Perhaps unable to see the person at the door clearly, Ryan shook his head and strained to widen his eyes. Finally, when Wanda's entire figure became clear in his sight, Ryan instantly scrambled up from the ground and stumbled toward her. Wanda had no time to dodge and was instantly trapped in his embrace. "Wanda, you finally came to see me. Please, don't leave me." Ryan thought the person before him was just a drunken hallucination, so he didn't bother hiding his inner desires. He raised his hand to cup her face and leaned in for a kiss. Slap. Greeting him was Wanda's fierce slap, and taking advantage of the man's stunned moment, she pushed him away with force. "Ryan, what madness has gotten into you?" Ryan remained dazed for a long time after her slap, and only after a while did he slowly raise his hand to touch his swollen, reddened face. Not a dream. Wanda had long been irritated by this inexplicable day and immediately sneered. "A dream? Of course it's a dream. I must be unlucky to encounter such a nightmare." With that, she no longer looked at him and turned to walk downstairs. "Wanda." Ryan finally came to his senses and hurried down to chase after her. As they struggled, Wanda lost her footing and suddenly felt weightless as she began to fall. "Look out!" Ryan panicked and instinctively reached out to grab her, but it was too late. He only managed to shield her in his arms. Thud. With a loud thud, the two crashed heavily to the ground. Thanks to Ryan's protection, Wanda was mostly unharmed, aside from feeling slightly dizzy. Looking back at Ryan, who was still lying on the ground, traces of blood were already seeping from the back of his head. "Sir." The villa immediately descended into chaos as the butler hurriedly sent both of them to the hospital. This ordeal lasted for several more days. Taking advantage of Ryan still being hospitalized, Wanda planned to sneak away. Just as she reached the door, she was stopped by the villa's servants. Instantly, Wanda's face turned cold. "What do you mean by this?" The two servants looked at her awkwardly. "Sorry, Ms. Wanda, but without the master's order, you cannot leave." As if hearing some joke, Wanda let out a mocking laugh. "If you want to imprison me, just say it outright." The servants froze, and before they could react, Wanda was already pushing their hands away to walk out. After all, she was someone Ryan liked, so the servants didn't dare to actually lay hands on Wanda. They could only chase after her while trying to dissuade her. "Ms. Wanda, Ms. Wanda, you really can't leave." The servant's words only made Wanda quicken her steps further. At that moment, a Maybach pulled up steadily in front of them, and then the door was pushed open from inside. A pale-faced Ryan got out of the car and stood before Wanda. "Wanda, don't call me that. It makes me sick." Since returning to the country, Wanda had been prepared to reunite with Ryan. She was well aware that neither she nor the Carlson family could stand against him or the Warner family, which was why she sought stability. That's why she thought it best not to provoke him and to avoid further contact. Even if they had to interact, she would restrain her temper to prevent conflicts and avoid bringing trouble upon herself. But Wanda never anticipated that her continuous retreat would only fuel Ryan's growing madness. He used to just frequent the theater to gamble on himself, calling or texting her when he couldn't see her. After being blocked by Wanda, he didn't lose heart, since she was still in the country, still in City J. Now he's not even pretending anymore. He actually wants to imprison her directly at the Warner family's place. Are you insane? What the hell are you trying to do? Seeing Wanda in such a frenzied state, Ryan felt that this was the real Wanda. After all, they had been in a relationship for 3 years. Wanda could never be someone who constantly yielded and sacrificed herself. Ryan smiled gently, but his eyes were filled with madness. Crazy, Wanda. I'm not crazy. I'm just afraid of losing you again, which is why I want to keep you by my side. He gazed obsessively at the person before him, involuntarily reaching out to caress her. You know, it was after you faked your death that year that I truly lost my mind. Wanda. After Wanda's death, everyone in City J knew Ryan had gone mad. He sent both his once brother-like companion and his childhood sweetheart of over a decade straight to prison. He disregarded the Warner family elders' objections and insisted on burying Wanda under the name of Mrs. Warner. In the end, he, a man who never believed in gods, knelt before every deity in the heavens, just to meet Wanda in a dream. Nowadays, he's considered restrained. If it were his former self, he would have dragged Wanda to the civil registry office the day her mask fell off, rather than keeping her trapped by his side as he is now, seeing the madness on Ryan's face before her. Wanda could only feel the irony. Ryan, you keep saying you love me, so why didn't you uncover the truth when Vanessa framed me? Why did you agree to Vanessa's plan to retaliate against me? And why didn't you tell me the truth? Don't make excuses. I gave you a chance. During that fire, when I asked if you would come back, at that moment, I thought if you could just turn around immediately and pull me out of the fire, I could forgive you. Everything from the past could be let go. But what did you do at that time? Wanda received only Ryan's prolonged silence in response to her lengthy words. That fire had happened so long ago, so long that Ryan could hardly remember the scene back then, but he still remembered that he hadn't answered her at the time. Only hesitated for a moment before turning away without looking back. You could leave me in the fire. Why do you think I would stay for you? Wanda dropped these words and was about to walk away, but this time Ryan reacted quickly. Stop her. Wanda turned back in disbelief. Ryan. She thought that as long as Ryan still felt any guilt toward her, he wouldn't stop her again. Ryan slowly walked toward her, and this time his hand finally reached out to touch Wanda's face. Wanda. I admit all my past wrongs. I've endured the punishment I deserved, so why don't we leave the past behind and start anew? I know you're still angry with me, so in the time to come, I'll make it up to you slowly. All right. Oh no. Wanda abruptly turned her head away, dodging his hand. Perhaps due to extreme disappointment, her voice choked with emotion. Ryan, you've already ruined me once. Do you want to ruin me again? Are you only satisfied when you've driven me to my death? Ryan flashed a pained look in his eyes, but it quickly turned to determination. Wanda, I won't let you die again. After that day, Wanda was Ryan's forced to stay by his side. To make her presence more plausible, Ryan held a special press conference and publicly explained that back then, Wanda hadn't died, but had only faked her death and left because she was angry with him. However, after more than a year of his efforts, Wanda was finally coaxed back and returned to his side. As he spoke these words, Wanda was sitting right beside him. She watched coldly as he put on a show of deep affection, while the reporters below were moved to tears. For a moment, she desperately wanted to snatch Ryan's microphone and expose his true nature to the world, but in the end, she did nothing. After being away for over a year, her voice carried far less weight than Ryan's, even if Wanda had spoken up. The reporters in the audience would have dismissed it as mere playful banter between them. After the press conference, perhaps to demonstrate Ryan's love for Wanda, he took her with him wherever he went for over a month. On the cruise ship, he celebrated Wanda's birthday by setting off fireworks costing $200,000 each, illuminating the entire sky. At the auction, he spared no expense for Wanda, bidding for the most expensive emerald necklace in the VIP lounge of the luxury boutique. Countless expensive gowns and jewels filled the room, all for Wanda to choose from. Wanda stood in front of the dressing mirror, her eyes numb as she watched Ryan lay out one exclusive designer dress after another in front of her, asking for her opinion. She silently observed the two figures in the mirror without saying a word. Ryan didn't get angry either. He casually tossed the dress in his hand to the store manager nearby, instructing her to wrap up all these dresses. The staff had encountered generous customers before, but someone like Ryan, who spent tens of millions in a single purchase, was a first for the store manager. so the shopkeeper's smile became even more sincere, and he said all sorts of pleasant words. "Mrs. Warner is truly blessed to have such a loving husband. May the two of you remain united in love and grow old together." All kinds of flattering words Ryan had heard too many times in the business world. But such sincere words that could truly touch his heart were a first for him. In an increasingly cheerful mood, he casually glanced at Wanda, who was staring blankly at the display case. "Wrap those up as well." The shopkeeper's face was practically splitting with a grin as he hurriedly directed the staff while leading Ryan to the checkout. Finally, Wanda, who had been spacing out in the distance, stirred slightly. That thought popped into her mind again: run away. Over the past month, Wanda had indeed considered escaping, but Ryan seemed to have a tracker installed. No matter where she went, Ryan always managed to find her, to teach her a lesson. He even went as far as suspending her from her dance troupe. Of course, the excuse he gave to the dance troupe leader wasn't as harsh as before. He simply said they had been apart for a long time and wanted more time alone together. Once they got married, she would naturally return. Yes, marriage. During that press conference back then, Ryan not only announced Wanda's fake death but also shared the happy news of their wedding a month later. She was completely unaware of all this, which is why she lost control after the press conference and Ryan had a big argument. But it still didn't change the fact that Ryan was determined to marry her. Today, Ryan took her to a luxury store to pick out some items for their wedding. As for the wedding dress, Ryan had already arranged for private custom-made overnight. At this moment, after paying, Ryan re-entered the private room, took her hand, and smiled gently. "Let's go." Wanda remained silent, allowing him to lead her out of the luxury store and into the car. Along the way, the street scenes outside the car window flashed by rapidly, yet they couldn't erase Wanda's sorrowful eyes. She neither wanted nor was willing to hear the bad news of Ryan's marriage. But she had absolutely no way to escape him. Could she only watch helplessly as she married someone she didn't love? Wanda clenched her hands, resting on her knees tighter and tighter, her knuckles turning white from the excessive force. As the wedding date drew nearer, Wanda felt increasingly anxious, thinking she was nervous about the wedding. Ryan specially took time out to take her out, but halfway there, he received an urgent call from the company. Reluctantly, he had to let Wanda go to the restaurant first to eat, promising to meet her after finishing work. Ryan subconsciously went to give Wanda a goodbye kiss as he got out of the car. She quickly turned her head away, so his kiss only landed on her cheek. Ryan paused, then smiled and got out of the car. As the car door closed, Wanda finally let all the disgust in her eyes show. She hurriedly took out a wet wipe from her bag and vigorously wiped the cheek where Ryan had kissed her. She didn't discard the wet wipe until her entire cheek was rubbed red and swollen, almost to the point of breaking the skin. The evening restaurant was empty, with only Wanda sitting by the window and her dutiful bodyguards stationed outside every exit. These bodyguards were ostensibly for protection but actually served to monitor Wanda and prevent her from escaping. Wanda waited until the bodyguards closed the door before continuing to enjoy the lavish meal in front of her. "Miss, this is the blueberry mousse you ordered." Wanda paused. She hadn't ordered any dessert at all. Just as she was about to explain this to the waiter in front of her, she looked up and saw an extremely familiar face. "Vanessa." The Vanessa before me paused, then said, "I'm not her, I'm her sister, Violet." Seeing Wanda stepping back warily, Violet let out a disdainful chuckle. "What are you hiding for? I'm not like my sister who would hurt you." Hearing this, Wanda finally lowered her guard and asked, "What do you want with me?" Violet sat down across from Wanda, tapped the table with her fingers, and spoke leisurely. "I'm here to clean up the mess my sister left behind. The Brandon family has twin daughters. The elder sister is domineering and always bullies the weak, while the younger sister is extremely calm and restrained, only striking through others' hands. Brandon's family initially placed all their hopes on his sister Vanessa, but they never expected Vanessa to be so hopelessly in love with Ryan that she'd constantly threatened to die for him. Left with no choice, the Brandons had to allocate all their elite resources to their younger sister Violet. From the age of 16, Violet was sent by the Brandons to the United States to receive elite education. They also demanded she take over all Brandon family businesses before turning 30. In order to take over as soon as possible, Violet never came back. This is also why Wanda had never heard of her. It wasn't until this time, when Vanessa was sent to prison by Ryan, and the Brandon family suffered a blow from the Warner family, that Violet proposed returning to take over the Brandon family's business. Within a week, Violet had uncovered the root cause behind the Brandon family's current predicament. She didn't deny Vanessa's mistakes in this game, so Vanessa going to prison didn't bother her. The only thing that frustrated her was that the real culprit was still at large, even about to marry a beauty. Vanessa was the one who proposed this game, but the one who actually took action multiple times was Ryan. His dozens of revenge attempts nearly cost Wanda her life. Logically, the combined penalties for these actions should have been enough to keep him in prison until death, yet in the end, he faced no punishment at all. Violet was unwilling to accept it. But she had no opportunity to expose his crimes. After all, the Warner family is currently at the peak of their influence, and no one is willing to offend Ryan. Violet, after waiting and waiting, the right person and the right opportunity finally arrived. This USB drive contains Ryan's complete criminal evidence from all these years, and on your wedding day, most of the business elites and media reporters will be present. As long as you publicly play the contents of this USB drive during the wedding, he will definitely go to prison. Don't worry, I'll arrange for someone to ensure your safety at that time, and the moment you play it, I'll immediately have the police storm in to arrest him. Moreover, being sent to prison by the person he loves the most, I refuse to believe he won't suffer for the rest of his life. Violet's words successfully made Wanda tempted. She tried hard to suppress her wildly beating heart and looked up at the woman sipping coffee before her. I can agree, but I have one condition. Go ahead, after it's done, send me back to America. And you must ensure the Warner family can never find me or my parents again. Violet thought Wanda would make other demands, but didn't expect it to be such a simple one. She naturally nodded in agreement. No problem. Then let's have a pleasant collaboration. Pleasant collaboration. Two slender hands clasped tightly together, both pairs of eyes filled with unwavering determination. Time flew by, and soon it was Wanda and Ryan's wedding day. On the wedding day, the seats below the stage were filled with celebrities from all walks of life. Moreover, countless cameras were aimed at the lavishly decorated stage, broadcasting every move in real time across the internet. Meanwhile, netizens flooded the screen with bullet messages blessing the newlyweds, to the melodious piano music. Wanda, in her white wedding dress, arm in arm with Ryan, walked slowly down the flower-adorned aisle towards the stage at the end. Before the wedding, Wanda had been extremely nervous, fearing the plan would fail and that she might never escape Ryan's control for the rest of her life. But when she actually put on the wedding dress and walked into the wedding venue arm in arm with Ryan, her previously anxious heart suddenly became calm. On the contrary, Wanda's companion Ryan was unusually nervous. He never dreamed in his wildest dreams that there would be a day when he would marry Wanda. Back when Wanda died, he had even considered the idea of holding a wedding with her ashes. It was the Warner family who threatened with their lives. Ryan finally gave up the idea. Now his dream has finally come true. He has married the woman who has loved him for so many years, and whom he also deeply loves. In the future, he will surely treat her well and never let her down. As the MC spoke, Wanda and Ryan exchanged the words they had prepared for each other. Originally, Wanda was supposed to speak first, but she still handed the microphone to the man across from her. Ryan has given countless speeches in front of crowds throughout his life, but never felt as nervous as this time. Although he had prepared a draft beforehand, at the moment he was about to speak, only one sentence came to mind: Wanda, I love you. Until the last moment of my life, this simple sentence made Wanda suddenly tear up, and she couldn't stop crying. Startled, the Ryan in front of her hurriedly took out a handkerchief to wipe her tears, yet inexplicably saw sorrow in her eyes. Yes, Wanda only felt profound sorrow. Had those past events not occurred, perhaps she truly would have become Ryan's bride, spending her life with him. But those events did happen, so much so that the pain kept her awake whenever she remembered them. Wanda took a deep breath and took the microphone from Ryan's hand. Ryan, I have a surprise I want to give you right now. Hearing this, Ryan's eyes flashed with surprise and delight, but he didn't know that he was about to be plunged into hell. Soon, a staff member came on stage to take Wanda's South USB drive and inserted it into the computer. Then, the blank screen in the middle of the wedding stage began playing the video. Ryan's cruel actions toward Wanda over those 3 years were gradually revealed on the screen. The truly ruthless and life-disregarding Ryan was also slowly exposed before everyone. Everything that followed felt like a dream to Wanda. She saw the guests below the stage first express astonishment, then burst into murmurs. She also saw the journalists initially puzzled before frantically pressing their camera shutters. Finally, she saw Ryan first shocked, then horrified. Before desperately trying to grab a pile of flowers nearby to hurl at the screen. Turn it off. Turn all of these off now. The scene descended into chaos, unfolding before Wanda's eyes as if in slow motion. In the end, this farce concluded with Ryan being handcuffed and taken away by the police. Before leaving, Ryan finally calmed down and gazed quietly at the woman in the wedding dress. Why, those 3 short words drained all his strength. Wanda laughed. For the first time with such genuine joy, yet the words she spoke were so cruel. Because I hate you, you ruined me, so naturally, I must ruin you once too. Ryan, let's never see each other again in this lifetime. The veil was lifted by her and tossed into the air with a carefree flourish. Ryan, in the final moments of memory, only saw Wanda's figure walking away with a carefree air. But Wanda never once looked back. Outside the wedding venue, Violet handed the plane ticket to the US to Wanda. Congratulations, you're free now. Wanda took the plane ticket from her hand and sighed. Yes, I'm finally free. From now on, she could only be Wanda.